Hello, wonderful viewers. Welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah, the Cedar Moon Witch. Today, I am doing a VR to Shanna D and her hashtag favorite jeans decks. I thought it was just a fun tag. Oh snap, I lost the prompts. I found them. Okay, so, let's get into it. The first prompt is a well-worn sweater, a deck that wraps you in quiet wisdom. And for this prompt, I chose the Spacious Tarot. If you want quiet wisdom, then the Spacious Tarot is it. When I first got this deck, I had a hard time with it, honestly, because there are no people, there are very few animals, and it took a while. It took like actually sitting and meditating on the cards to hear what the cards had to say. I would say that this is definitely a quiet wisdom deck. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. I love the size of the cards. Like just a me thing. But like that Emperor. I love that Emperor card. I love all of these cards. But it is a quiet wisdom deck. Absolutely. And then the Star. Just gorgeous. Also the Chariot. Also the Elder of Swords. Ooh, this Temperance card. This is quite possibly the best illustration of temperance I have ever seen in any tarot deck. So, that was my well-worn sweater, a deck that wraps you in quiet wisdom. The Spacious Tarot. I think this deck is now out of print. I honestly don't know. I am sorry if it is. Oop, I moved George. Gotta move him back. The second prompt is a familiar walking path, a deck that knows where you're headed before you do. For this, I had to choose the Crow Tarot. I have had this deck since it came out in 2019. And this deck is what I use. This is wonderful for predictive readings. And if I come to this deck and I don't ask a question and I lay out cards, those cards will tell me exactly what's going to happen in the future. So this deck, yes, it's cheeky and, all of that, but it really does know where I'm headed before I do. Crow Tarot. Great for predictive readings, at least in my experience. So we're gonna leave it there. Crow Tarot. This one is still in print, I do believe. By US Games, they came out with a little pocket edition. Like, I'm not usually one to go out and buy multiples of a deck, but this one I might. The third prompt. Excuse me, I need some water. The third prompt, warm socks on a cold floor, a deck that grounds you in comfort. I had to choose the Gentle Tarot. This is my copy of the linen edition, but I also have the OG regular edition. I had the pocket edition. I've had 2 of the pocket editions, but I've given them away because I think that this is a wonderful deck for beginners. It's gentle, it's kind, but it's also honest. So this is one of my favorite decks to give away to pop people's tarot cherries with. And it is a really grounding deck. It's very comforting. It is the feeling of socks on a cold floor. It's a beautiful deck. It's gorgeous. It's kind. I said all of those things. I have had the Gentle Tarot, again, for years. So maybe that also influences my pick for this, you know, like. But when I just need to ground, to come back to myself, to my body, you know, to get, oh no. That's probably the mailman? Oh, I'll be back. Okay, so, the dog. My dog is highly vigilant. So this was the Warm Socks on a Cold Floor, a deck that grounds you in comfort. And we will leave it there on the 4 of Thunder, because we all need a little bit of 4 of Thunder. Especially my dog, who is hyper vigilant. The mailman wasn't even here, he was next door. So, like, that's the kind of dog he is. The next prompt. Your grandmother's recipe box. A deck that holds generational wisdom. For this, there were quite a few decks that I could have chosen. Like, I could have chosen the Secrets of the Ancestors Oracle. I love that. I could have chosen the Southern Gothic Oracle. I love that. I could have chosen the Voodoo Tarot because that one's also really good and I use it for ancestor work. But the one that I went with, if you have watched any of my previous videos, I went with the Herb Crafter's Tarot. I have had this deck also for many, many years. And this deck literally lives in my kitchen. I have a kitchen altar, and this is my kitchen altar deck. Sometimes when I am cooking, like, you know, I will pull this deck out and, you know, just throw some cards and see what comes up and just listen. This is my herb crafting deck. This is my cooking deck. This is my go outside in my she shed and, you know, bask in the outdoorsness deck. But this deck feels deep. It feels old. It feels generational. This feels like I am sitting down with my great-great-great-grandmother and listening to her impart her wisdom to me. I just love this deck. This is one of my pieces of my soul decks. And another thing that I love about this deck is it has the plant name on it. And I'm a plant person. So sometimes the tarot association isn't even what stands out, isn't even what tickles my brain, it's the plant and the association that the plant brings to me. Like, I just love this deck. And this deck is an old, wise woman deck. Absolutely. So, the Herb Crafters is my... God, what is this? My grandmother's recipe box. A deck that holds generational wisdom. Oh. And I lost the rock that I keep with it. The next prompt. What is the next prompt? A window seat on a stormy day. A deck that makes space for shadow work. This was an interesting prompt. I like that it says a deck that makes space for shadow work. It's not necessarily a shadow work deck, but it could lean that way. It opens up the door to explore unconscious or subconscious things. And for that, I chose the Forhaxa Tarot. This is the indie edition, but it's out mass market. Those are the backs. I love the backs on this deck. This is one of the few decks that I have edged. I don't edge decks. I edge decks for two reasons. One is if I like the artwork, but I'm just not connecting, I'll edge it. But I edged this one because I got it. I flipped through the cards and I just fell in love with it. So this is, and I edged it because I love and respect this deck. So a deck that makes space for shadow work is this deck. The readings aren't necessarily shadowy. They don't always necessarily bring up shadow work. But I've had readings going in with this deck. 'Cause I'm the sort, I have conversations with the cards, you know, like I'll ask a question, I'll pull a card or two, and then I'll go from there, right? And this deck opens up the dialogue for shadow work. It's not like the, oh God, what's that deck? It's not like, shit. So this deck isn't like the Reclaim Oracle, you know, where the Reclaim Oracle, in my experience, is just like, no matter what question I ask it, it's going to bring up some prickly things that I don't necessarily want to talk about right then, right? You know, like, I came to you about question A, and you're going into, you know, deep, prickly, horrible territory. This deck opens up a dialogue, and it invites you to go deeper into the unconscious. But it doesn't just like plunge you into it, which is nice, you know, especially when you're having a conversation and you start out with one thing, you know, like it answers the one thing, and then it invites you to go further and explore why. Why is that cycle continuing? Or like, why is this issue reappearing? Which I value. You know, because sometimes sometimes you just can't go deep, you know? Like, sometimes you have to deal with other people and you don't want to be in that space. I don't know. Does that make sense? But, this is... What was the prompt? This is my window seat on a stormy day. This is the deck that makes space for shadow work. It makes space for it. It doesn't plunge you into. So I thought that was really... a really good wording, a really good prompt. the next one. That one pair of jeans you never have to think about. A deck that just gets you without trying. For that I chose the Ritual Tarot. This deck and we worked almost exclusively together for a year. I love it. I know it. Mine is the unmarked edition with the Kuan Yin on the back. I know all of the cards. I don't need the book. I don't need to write down what I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking at. And this deck just... a lot of the times it doesn't even matter what the card is. You know, the cards will just tell me what they need to tell me. I get it. This deck gets me. I get it. There's no confusion. There's no fuss. There's no muss. When I am feeling just burnt out and low energy and, you know, like not in the place to drag out all kinds of books, this deck does it for me. It's a beautiful deck. We are well bonded. And it gets me. Without trying, it just gets me. And it has since the very first reading was amazing for me with this deck. So that is the Ritual Tarot by Tierra May. That one pair of jeans you never have to think about. A deck that just gets you without trying. What are we on? We're on prompt number 7. Your chipped but perfect coffee cup. A deck that doesn't need you to be fancy to show up. Chipped but perfect coffee cup. Daily guidance from your Angel's Oracle cards by Doreen Virtue. This deck is out of print. You can still find it cheap. As you can tell, like, this deck is chipped itself. I've used the heckins out of this deck. It was a second-hand deck, but you know, I've put the majority of the wear on this. It's a wonderful reader. And it meets me where I am. And, you know, like, there's just something about being met where you are. That's really nice. I don't have to do any fancy rituals. You know, like, I've thrown this deck in my bag and gone with it, you know, like, no matter where I am, no matter what state of mind or emotional state I'm in, this deck is here for me. And it's like, it's not fancy. I mean, the artwork isn't cohesive at all. But I like that. It's an angel deck, but I think that it's very down to earth. You know, like it doesn't think more of itself than it should. You know what I mean? Like, we all have that one deck where we go to it and we just feel like this deck thinks more of itself than it should. Not this deck. This deck, if this deck were a person, it would be blue jeans and t-shirt. And I like that. Because I'm a blue jeans and t-shirt kind of gal. So, daily guidance from your angels oracle cards is my chipped but perfect coffee cup deck. A deck that doesn't need me to be fancy to show up. Prompt number 8. Wow, look at me. I am just zipping through. The book that you've read so many times, the pages are falling out. A deck that knows all your stories and loves you anyway. This was another one where I could have chosen a lot of different decks. I feel that way about all of the prompts though. But this one especially. So for this one, I chose the Sassy Tarot, which I affectionately call the Sassy Burrito. This was another deck that this deck and I bought this new. And this deck and we've been together, you know, like this is just, I've used this deck a lot. This is another one of those bonded decks, I guess, you know. This deck reads well in any circumstance, but it's very, I mean, it's honest, you know. But it's been there for me through highs and through lows. And I just love it. I love it so much. It's that friend that you might not have spoken to in a few years, but we pick up just like the last time we talked was yesterday. And it grows and changes with me. It's not one of those decks for a season, you know? It's one of those decks that stays with me. I love this. This is my favorite Fool card. I love this Fool card. I love the illustration of the old man hunched over with his long gray beard, white beard. I love that it illustrates that, you know, new beginnings and excitement can happen at any age. Just because you've aged out doesn't mean you can't start over. I love this deck. It's beautiful. I might leave it out. Just because. So, the book you've read so many times, the pages... No. Is that it? Yes. Yes. Deck that knows all your stories and loves you anyway. Sassy Burrito. Oh, snap. Let me see. Prompt number 9 is a playlist you've had since high school. A deck that knows all your phases and still vibes with you. For this, I chose Outgrow Yourself. And as you can see from the tuck box, I have used the heckins out of this deck as well. I know I saw Janaki over at Catamancy Tarot. She did like a marked on the back. She wrote the tarot associations on the back, which is very cool and very clever, and I thought about doing it. But that takes effort, and, you know, I have things to do. But this deck knows all my phases and still vibes with me. No matter what, I've traveled with this deck. You know, I've taken it to work. I've taken it to places. You know, like it's been with me. We've been through a lot, and it still always hits the mark. The readings are always on point. It's just, it's always good. There's never a time when I pick up this deck, I pull cards and I think, oh no, I should have picked a different deck. It changes with me, with the seasons. And it makes space for me, no matter, you know, what season I'm in. Beautiful deck, wonderful deck. And one that knows all my phases and still vibes with me. Outgrow yourself. I feel like all of these would also be good candidates for that that tarot tag about disheveled decks. Maybe I should do that. And then the last prompt, your go-to takeout order. You don't even have to think about. A deck that just works without all the fuss. And again, I'm so sorry, but I want to be truthful. Spolia, horribly out of print. Mine has been used, lovingly used. And this is one of those, like, one of those decks that I go to for everything. I don't have to think about it. I know that the reading is going to give me what I need in that moment, no matter what kind of reading I need. If I don't know what kind of reading I need, I come to Spolia, because it'll hit the spot. It'll tell me what I need to hear, and it will leave me satisfied. It's just a great deck. It really is. And it's one that I don't even have to think about. I lay the cards, and I know that the cards are going to be clear, that I'm gonna get what this deck says. So this is my go-to takeout order. The deck that just works without all the fuss. The deck that I don't even have to think about. Yeah. The first time I tried to shuffle it, I kind of bent a card, because this deck is not riffleable. But that's okay, neither am I. Yes, so that was the 10th and last prompt for the favorite jeans deck. Is that what it was? Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm an awful tarot tuber. I forget all the names and the prompts. Yes, favorite jeans decks. So, thank you so much for being here with me. Bless you if you have made it this far. It means the world to me. Leave a comment. Let me know, what are some of your favorite jeans decks? You know, the decks that just you pull out and they feel like that awesome pair of Levi's that you've had for years that just fits you. Like if it's a likable video, subscribe if it's a subscribable video. And I'll see you next time. Bye.